Hello and welcome into the Kiwi Football Fix on Sky Sport. I'm Jason Pine, off the bench today for Goran Paladin, unavailable for various reasons actually, but it's a delight to be here on the Kiwi Football Fix, and an even bigger delight to be able to welcome in a very special guest, a man with a very, very important 3 weeks or so ahead of him, and that is All Whites coach Danny Hay, who joins us from Spain, where he's preparing his team for the first of two warm-up matches against Peru and then Oman. And then, of course, the big one on the morning of June 15, New Zealand time, it is the All Whites against Costa Rica in the Intercontinental Playoff for a place at the World Cup in Qatar later on in the year. Danny, great to have you joining us on the Kiwi Football Fix. Set the scene for us. You're in Spain ahead of this game against Peru. How many players there at the moment with you, and when do you expect the full squad of 26 to join you?
Yeah, g'day, Piney. We've all settled in pretty well here in Spain. Obviously, a few of the A-League players in particular have made a long journey. So there's 13 of us at the moment. So 10 outfield players, 3 goalkeepers. We'll get a few more filter in over the next couple of days, but the remainder will come in when we actually kick into the official FIFA window, which is around the 30th, 31st.
So you had the game against Peru confirmed a little while ago. Here in New Zealand, we heard the news of the Oman game just in the last 24 hours or so. How crucial is it to have those two games leading into this massive match against Costa Rica?
Oh, look, huge for us. I think we all know that we've only really got back to playing the middle of last year, and I'm including the Olympics with that. We've been fortunate enough to get a number of games since then, but the opportunity to play against world-class opposition to test ourselves, I think, is crucial, obviously leading into the Costa Rican game. So playing in front of a big crowd is something we haven't done. So that's going to be a real challenge against Peru, and obviously Peru being ranked in the early 20s. We know their quality. We know their quality from 4 years ago as well. But obviously really pleased as well to get the Oman game as well. So the fact that will be in Qatar, in Doha, and us getting just acclimatised to the conditions there, and obviously giving multiple players opportunities to show what they're capable of. We're still in a very different world, a COVID environment, so that could come into force. We just don't know. We hope not, but we need to be prepared for that. We need to be prepared for injuries. So we need to make sure that everybody's had some significant game time under their belt.
Let's talk in ideals, and as you say, it's a COVID world, so we never can. But let's say, for argument's sake, that everybody is available. Is it likely, Danny, that the team you put out against Peru is kind of what you want to put out against Costa Rica, or is that not quite the case?
Well, look, I don't want to give away too much to the Costa Ricans, because no doubt they'll be doing their homework. But yeah, of course, we want to, like I said, test ourselves in a tough environment, in a bit of a cauldron. There's going to be some significant amount of Peruvian fans turning up to support their team in Barcelona, and they're a good team. So yes, we definitely want to put an 11 that could potentially go a long way to lining up against Costa Rica, up against those Peruvians. So yeah, look, we haven't made any concrete decisions, and that's why I think it's definitely important to have secured this Oman game as well, so that players can have the opportunity to step up. And pressure does funny things to different people, and ultimately we want to go into that Costa Rican game knowing that we're putting their best 11 players out on the pitch. And a lot of that will be based on the work they do over the next couple of weeks and how they perform in the games as well.
Sarpreet Singh, there was talk that he was trying to get fit. He wasn't named in the 26. Is that him completely off the table, Danny? There's no 11th hour call-up if Sarpreet somehow makes a miraculous recovery from the niggle that's been afflicting him in recent weeks?
Oh, look, if that was the case and that he recovered to full fitness, then of course we would consider it. But as far as the medical team are aware or have said, and as far as Preet is saying himself, he still thinks he's a long way off. And the reality is, even if he was feeling good and felt that he was fit, he's a young player who hasn't kicked the ball in the best part of 10 to 12 weeks now. So to ask him to play in sort of games or a game when we're looking ahead to Costa Rica of the magnitude that it is and everything that's at stake, I think would be probably too much of an ask. So look, the reality is I'm certainly not putting a red line through it, but it would be a very, very long shot, and I just don't think probably that viable.
A guy you have got back, though, hasn't been in the national team with you since your first couple of games in charge back in 2019. Gee, that seems a long time ago. Is Marco
Yeah.
Rojas. He's had a good season with Melbourne Victory. I know that he's obviously been keen to join up with you. What sort of role does Marco Rojas have to play for you over the next 2 or 3 weeks?
Well, first and foremost, it's going to be getting Marco back into the environment. It was great to have him in 219 and in the first fixtures that we had against Ireland and Lithuania. But for multiple reasons, he hasn't been able to join us since, mainly down to injury. So it's great to see that he's back to form. He's looking back to the old Marco Rojas. It looks like he's playing with a smile on his face. And I guess Tony Popovic has got to take a lot of credit for that. I think he's obviously managed Marco really well. The game time that he's getting now, and he's obviously performing at a high level. So, look, just looking forward to getting Marco into the environment, and we'll just see how he performs over the course of a couple of games. But he's going to be an important player for us. There's no doubt about that.
Let's talk some nuts and bolts of this intercontinental playoff. How do you want your team to play that day or that night?
Well, I guess we could sum it up in one word, with courage. And it's something that, as a group, we talk a lot about. We want to transform and inspire the game in New Zealand and young Kiwis that are watching it. And look, and I think that's the way we've tried to go about our business from 2019 to the point we are now. And I think people saw that start to come to life at the Olympics. It certainly has over the course of late 2021 and obviously early this year as well. So for me, we need to stay the course. We need to stay true to who we are, to the identity that we're trying to form as a team. We want to represent New Zealand, as we said, with courage, and so they can be proud of the way we go about our business. And so for us to do anything other than that, would be false to who we are as a group of players and staff, and false to what we think New Zealand football should really represent on the world stage.
So, what does courage look like in this scenario? How does that manifest itself on the pitch? If we're looking for players being courageous, what do they need to do to fulfil that brief?
Well, multiple things. We've got a distinct style of play, and like I said, identity. And anybody that watched we played at the Olympics would probably see that. We've seen that against world class teams. Look, we try and maintain possession more so than we ever did previously, and I can say that as a former All White. We didn't often show enough courage to try and build from deep. I look back to the way we played against Japan, and obviously a very good side at the Olympics. Had been unbeaten to that stage, and we took them the full 120 minutes through being courageous with the way we played, trying to express ourselves, giving the players to have license to really be creative and attack-minded in the right areas. But at the same time, that courage manifests itself in the way we transition, the way we transition defensively, the manner we show as a group and towards one another with how we recover and get back behind the ball, and how hard we work to make it difficult for teams. So all of those things in terms of our style of play, we really want to see starting to come to life. And I think the players are really comfortable with that. They can verbalise roles and responsibilities in any given moment of the game. And I think there's a real sense of togetherness with this group, which for me as the head coach, I'm proud of, but also privileged to be a part of, because I think it's a pretty special and unique thing that we're starting starting to build here, that New Zealanders are sort of starting to get a sense of that as well.
How much planning can you do around game scenarios? You think about a situation where you're 1-0 up with half an hour to go. What do you do then? Or you're 1-0 down with half an hour to go. What do you do then in terms of using your subs, impacting the game? Can you play these scenarios out in advance, or do you really just have to wait and see?
Well, it depends. Like no two games are the same. No two moments are ever the same, and I think that's the beauty about football as well. But that was a big part of some of the tough decisions around the squad and going through a number of those scenarios. What potentially could play out, whether you're a goal down, 2 goals down, you might be a goal up, you may be down to 10 men. Um, what's some of the DNA that we want to see um, trying to allow us to win the game, and some of those traits that certain players have. So that's why we think we've got the balance right at the moment. I'm really excited with the squad we've been able to assemble. Tough for some players to have missed out, but like you said, all those scenarios came into consideration around naming the squad. And ultimately now it's just coming down to how the players perform over the course of this training camp, and then obviously how they perform in the big moments. Peru and Oman, which will set us up really, really well to go into this Costa Rican game with a really clear idea of our own strengths and weaknesses, and what we need to do to make it to the World Cup. It's a massive opportunity for us, and we think we've got a genuinely a very good chance of getting there.
With such a big game, and it all comes down to one game, and as you say, 90 minutes or whatever it takes on the night. I mean, is it difficult, not to obsess over it? Do you find yourself, with every waking moment that you have, thinking about this game, thinking about the games within the game, thinking about the things that might play out? I mean, are you able to think about anything else, or do you even want to?
Well, I'm not. Yeah, you're right. Not really. It's not even every waking moment. Well, it does. It wakes you up in the middle of the night, and you go through some of those scenarios, and you have certain ideas, and you can see where certain personnel, certain players could be able to really affect the game in a positive way. Yeah, it's difficult to think about anything else. Obviously, we're using the two games, the two build-up games, Peru and Oman, to prepare solely for one thing, and that's to try and give ourselves the best chance of beating Costa Rica. But I'm very fortunate that we've got an incredibly good staff that surround the players, staff that have been highly experienced. I look at somebody like our goalkeeper coach, Jonathan Gould, and the big games that he's been involved in as a player and a coach. Same with Darren Baisley as well. He's been through this before. He's been to the Intercontinental playoff. He's been a part of that. We've got players that have been to a World Cup. They've been through these games before as well. So, look, we feel like we're in a good space. We're doing everything we possibly can to create an environment that the players are enjoying being part of, and trying to set them up so that come that big night it's a big night for us, but big morning for you guys in New Zealand, that we're going to be at the best level that we possibly can be.
Whenever you talk to the players, they say these are the games they want to be involved in. These are the big matches that really get their adrenaline flowing. What about coaches, Danny? Are these the games that, as a coach, you relish, that you look forward to as well?
Of course, that's why we're involved in sport at a high level, professional sport, and this is one of those big moments. You think what's at stake. It's going to be massive for our country, massive for the game inside our country. And you just think of the profile it brings to the game. I think it's just such a huge opportunity for us, and it could be a life-changing moment for multiple people. And you think of what 2010 did for somebody like Winston Reid and the journey he went on. And I think we could see multiple players, young players, if we were to make it to a World Cup, go on some exciting journeys off the back of that. So huge amount at stake, but at the same time, hugely exciting. It's what we live for. This is why we do the job.
You mentioned 2010 there, and the legacy that team left lives on, as does the team of '82, the Trailblazers, who went to the World Cup for the very first time. And shot the game of football onto centre stage here in New Zealand. Do you mention the legacy of those teams in your conversations these days? Is that an important fabric that flows through and leaving your own legacy, I guess, for future generations to follow?
Oh, absolutely. I've spoken about it publicly multiple times that a big part of what we do inside the environment now is around respecting the past and the pioneers that put us in the position that we are now. And we're only here for a moment of time. We're just custodians of the shirt at this point in time. We obviously want to try and leave it in a better place, but we definitely talk a lot about the '82 cohort and some of the players that affected our game. We carry, I think they're probably 10 or 12-foot banners with three key All Whites that we think really represent the values of what it is to be a national team player, the values that we hold dear. We have giant collages of them on each of these banners, and they go everywhere with us. They're in our meeting room, they're in the changing room when the players are obviously preparing for a game. So there's a constant reminder of what it is to be an All White, the values that we hold dear, and some of those pioneers that really affected the game before us. And obviously, we often speak to the players about who's going to be next, who's the next player that we can really look to, that the next generation can go, wow, he made a massive difference for the game in New Zealand. And if I can hold half the mana, portray half the values that player did, then I'm going to be some way to doing a good job for the national team.
If it's not too much of a private thing, are you able to tell us who those players are?
Yeah, look, generally it stays deep inside our camp, but I think this is, it's probably an appropriate time and it's a special moment because we're on such a big game and a special journey, hopefully for football in New Zealand. So Steve Sumner, for obvious reasons, 1982 captain, but also a leader, a real leader. Ryan Nelson, again, 2010 captain, and a true pioneer. You think of what he did in terms of paving the way for Kiwis inside the Premier League and I guess the way he went about his business, respect that's held within the game, not just in New Zealand but worldwide. And then Winton Rufer, again, another pioneer. And I don't think people really understand just what a player he was and the level that he performed at in Germany in particular. I was just recently in Copenhagen, went to Joe Bell's game and came across a number of people, and the first name that came out of their mouth when they thought about New Zealand footballers was Winton Rufer. He was a genuine pioneer, and the way he performed at club level and then for country obviously was just something to behold, quite outstanding. So they're the three guys at the moment that we think really sum up the values that as a group we want to try and portray whenever we're putting that white shirt on and representing New Zealand.
Really appreciate you sharing that with us. Three better candidates I could not think of. And from the past to the future, you look at these players, Danny, and with the exception of a couple, I mean, many of them still young in their careers. Guys like Matt Garbett, Marko Stamenic could play another 3 World Cup cycles. So do you feel excitement beyond, 2022 for what the future might hold for the All Whites and for the game here?
Oh, look, incredibly excited. I think, we're sort of laying the foundation again of something that could be quite special, hopefully in 2022, but beyond 2026, as you say. And I went and watched Marko Stamenic play for his club side in Denmark, and it's just a reminder, even in European football, that he's a player that has immense potential, immense talent. People talking about him. The reality is, at this point in time, we think we've got a team that can do something pretty special right now. And the likes of Winston Reid aren't getting any younger. Woodsy, Tommy Smith, we've got multiple players that, for them, this is the moment. And, even our 19, 20, 21-year-old, 22-year-olds, they recognise that this is the moment. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what 4 years, what the world's going to look like in 4 years' time, what this team's going to look like. Form, injury, there could be multiple things. So the time is now. Time is now for this group to step up. And like I've said, we're confident that we're going to be fully prepared to do that.
Well, I know you've got the time to get it meticulously mapped out, Danny. So we really appreciate you taking some time out from that to spend with us and to give viewers to the Kiwi Football Fix a real insight into what's about to unfold as you head towards a really, really exciting encounter with Costa Rica.
Thanks, Piney. Good on you, mate.
Yes, our thanks to Danny Hay for joining us here on the Kiwi Football Fix. Such an exciting time for New Zealand football fans to be able to really get behind a team that has got so much about it. We've talked a lot on the Kiwi Football Fix and spoken to a lot of those players. And as I said to Danny during the chat, these are the games that players want to be involved in. And you talk to any of those players from, the youngest in the team, from a Matt Garvin and a Marco Stamanic, all the way up to, the other end of the scale, a Michael Boxall, a Winston Reid, a Chris Wood, and they are so looking forward to these games and that game against Costa Rica in particular. And we're looking forward to bringing it to you here on Sky Sport. Before we get to any of that, though, of course, it's the A-League Grand Final coming up this Saturday night from Amy Park. We'll have coverage for you on Sky Sport 7 from 9:40. Kick-off 5 or 10 minutes after that between Melbourne City and Western United. Look, I think if you said at the start of the season or made a prediction at the start of the season who is going to be in the A-League Grand Final, I think most people would have picked Melbourne City, defending champions, of course, and an all-star roster with some attacking ability, which is the envy of anybody else in the A-League. You look at the Golden Boot winner, Jamie McLaren, alongside him, Matthew Leckie and Marco Tilio, the youngster, Florin Berengay, others in there as well, Andrew Naboot. They can all score goals, and they were the highest goal scorers in the A-League men's. But then you come along and you look at Western United and you think nobody really picked them either, really, to get past Melbourne Victory in the semi-final, let alone be here in the final. But they are a very, very good football team and the masters of managing a game to its successful conclusion. They've had 8 1-0 wins this season. That might not sound very exciting, but it is a demonstration of the way this team can play and does play. They're very good at managing a game. If they score an early goal, as they did in the elimination final against the Wellington Phoenix, they are excellent at shutting up shop defensively and making sure that they get the result. They've got one of the best goalkeepers going around in Jamie Young, a defence that's got Leo Lacroix, who many are calling the best defender in the league, alongside the likes of Tomoki Imai, Neil Kilkenny, the captain, pulling strings in midfield, and Alexander Prijovic has found some striking form up front, particularly in the finals where he has 3 goals in the last 2 games. So while I guess most of the neutrals will be picking a Melbourne City win, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a few more chapters written before that silverware is handed out just before midnight our time on Saturday night. Melbourne City against Western United, the A-League Men's Grand Final for the season 2021-22, live on Sky Sports 7 from 9:40 on Saturday night. And just reminding you about those all-whites games, 3 of them to come for New Zealand and for Danny Hay. We'll have coverage of New Zealand against Peru from 30 a.m. on Queen's birthday Monday morning. So a nice early rise for you on Monday, the 6th of June. The Oman game that we've referenced during the show is behind closed doors, so we won't be able to bring you live coverage of that one. But do not forget that on the morning of Wednesday, June the 15th at 6 a.m., it's New Zealand against Costa Rica. Clear your diary. Make sure there are no breakfast meetings or other commitments for you. There's only one place you want to be from 6 a.m. on Wednesday, June the 15th, and that is right here on Sky Sport. We can't wait to bring commentary of that game to you and watch and enjoy it with you as it all unfolds. Thanks for joining us here on the Kiwi Football Fix on Sky Sport. We'll see you next time.